So before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to Mary Ann Franks. She is a law professor at the University of Miami, and she has a degree from Oxford and Harvard universities. Keep that in mind. Okay, so I just found this, and this is very scary and dangerous, and I think this needs to be a bigger story. But there's a law professor at the University of Miami who published an essay where she actually encourages and justifies violence against men, even against innocent men. Take a look. Okay, so here's the paper. It's titled Men, Women, and Optimal Violence. And you can see the author, which I've highlighted, Mary Ann Franks, University of Miami Law School. Now, she starts off by saying there is an asymmetry of gender violence because men aren't afraid of retaliation if they're violent against women, which later on in the video, I'm going to prove why that's total nonsense, including this scar right here when a woman stabbed me and also stabbed me in the neck. But let's take a look at what she starts off saying. Okay, so let's take a look. While both men and women can and do use violence against each other, men's violence against women is far more common, less justified, and more destructive than women's violence against men. One of the reasons for this asymmetry is that men do not fear retaliation for violence against women, whereas women do fear retaliation for the use of violence against men. The distribution of violence between the genders, then, is suboptimal. And the part where she says that women fear retaliation for violence against men really bothers me because I was assaulted by a woman. A woman followed me home and stabbed me in the arm and sliced my neck. If you follow my channel long enough, you may remember the stories. I posted the two videos down below, but this actually happens. A woman followed me home and stabbed me and almost killed me. And the slash to the neck, the doctor said if it was a centimeter closer to my Adam's apple, I might be dead right now. Anyway, if you want to know the story about what happened the night I got stabbed, I posted the two links to the videos in the description below. I was 100% the victim, and anything that I did was 100,000% self-defense. But anyway, let's continue with the essay. Society would be better off as a whole if more women were willing to engage in justified violence against men, and fewer men were willing to engage in unjustified violence against women. To that end, women's justified violence against men should be encouraged, protected, and publicized. This will require a reversal of the current trends in legal and social practices, which is to tolerate and encourage men's unjustified violence against women while discouraging and legally restricting women's violence against men. So she's actually saying there that we should end discouraging women from being violent against men, which is the same thing as encouraging violence against men. She's saying we shouldn't discourage women from being violent against men when it's justified. But who decides when it's justified? She's basically saying we should encourage women to be violent towards men when it's justified. But where is the line for what justified means? And who decides what justified is? And her last paragraph makes that a very, very scary thing. Take a look. And yes, I know it's not technically a paragraph, but you know what I mean. But this is extremely scary. Listen to this and really think about what the implication is. What is she implying? Even if encouraging an increase in women's justified violence against men may sometimes result in unjustified or disproportionate violence in individual situations, the overall effects of the redistribution of violence will be preferable to the current asymmetry. So how would she feel if I died that night? I know that she's not saying, oh, it's a good thing you were stabbed that night. I know she'd probably say, I'm so sorry that happened. It's unfortunate. I'm not supporting violence against men. I'm just saying that in the overall, if some unjustified violence against men happens, it would be worth balancing out the overall inequality between men and women. And she's a lawyer, so she knows how to word herself very carefully. She knows that she's not explicitly calling for violence, but what is the implication behind what she's saying? She is saying that if a woman kills a man and it's unjustified, that it's overall okay because it balances out her perceived inequality. That's an extremely dangerous thing to say. And she's a current law professor at the University of Miami. And that's something that I take very, very personally. So this is kind of a short video on this. I am by no means finished with this story. Believe me, I'm just getting started. So I sent her an email asking for some clarifications. So let's see, where that goes. Who knows if she's going to respond or not. But I just thought that this article from her really needs to get more public attention because I find it very concerning. So I'm just putting it out there. Now you know, and tell me what you think in the comments below.